I'm always saying what's working and what's not working. And then you go, okay, we could add this. It gives you flexibility. It gives you the opportunity to add something that wasn't there before, as opposed to this is the way we always do it. There is no this is the way we always do it in our world. There is we're starting over tomorrow a little bit better than yesterday. And we look around and we go, huh, there's that.
How can creating a membership business transform your life and grant you the freedom to control your time and location? Today on Seek Go Create the Leadership Journey, we're excited to host Vincent Pugliese, an expert in building profitable membership models. For the past 7 years, he and his wife have not only lived off their membership businesses, but have also empowered others to create scalable businesses that offer both financial freedom and flexibility. Vincent is passionate about teaching others to leverage their unique skills and interests into successful membership platforms. With the belief that even the most obscure niche can generate substantial recurring revenue, they have mastered the art of identifying and cultivating such opportunities. Vincent, welcome to Seek Go Create.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm excited that you're here too. We've discussed your last name. I pronounce it a little different every time just to keep us fresh. And you haven't told me I'm totally wrong yet. So I appreciate that.
Well, with my name, both first and last name, you have to be flexible. It's my first kind of thing in life. What do you go by? I go by every version of Vincent you can imagine. Because what am I going to do? Say, no, not that, it's this. I'm like, whatever you want to say. So you have to learn how to be flexible early in life with a name like mine.
You do, and you've got the accent. I'm guessing Italian, right? And Vinny. I think when you and I chatted a couple weeks ago, we got off on this My Cousin Vinny thing, which I love that movie. It's so cool. But
terrible year of my life when that came out.
Oh boy, we may go down to that road in just a little bit. But for right now, if you're out and about, I know you're in Florida now. You were in Pittsburgh for a while. You've moved some, but if you are on a plane or you bump into somebody, and I know you're always connecting, that's the theme, I believe, of this conversation. If you bump into somebody that they don't have a clue what you do, maybe you're not even a business connection, and they ask you what you do, what do you tell somebody when they ask you that?
It's funny you ask, because with a lot of us entrepreneurs, you can have a lot of things you could say. And I've come on this one line where I say, I have a membership for memberships. And I always get that sideways look that a dog gives you when you say something to them, because they go, I don't know what that means. And I love that because it actually brings up conversation, as opposed to saying the typical, I do this to help this person to do that. I'm like, I have a membership for memberships. And they go, what? And if you're not in the entrepreneurial space, they're like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And if they are in it, they're like, tell me more. And then it leads to, almost every single time, it leads to a more meaningful discussion, which is better for me than a one-liner.
Sure. Do you prefer, does it matter to you if they are in the entrepreneurial space and it lets you go down your path of what you really do? Or let's just say it's, I don't know, Grandma Margaret on a plane, and she looks at you and membership means nothing to her, but yet she's still intrigued and wants to talk to you. Do you prefer one over the other? Or does it matter to you? Or are they just people that you could connect with?
It's an interesting conversation, because I usually like to ask the questions. And I've found that most people aren't really kind of versed in that. I find the world to be not very curious, and I think it needs to be more. So I always lean on the fact that I don't really want to talk about myself. I want to talk about you. So I'll generally ask the questions. I've had tons of conversations where it's a long time and they only ask one question. And after a while, it's not going to be a friend of mine, because if you're so totally not that curious, we're not going to go very far. But I can totally do the interview if somebody's very kind of shy or they're not curious, because I love meeting people. I love learning what makes people tick. And then as the conversation goes on and they go, well, what do you do? And then once I explain it, it almost solidifies it, where they go, oh, I can see why you would do that, why you'd be good at that, simply by the way that I asked the questions to begin with. So it's generally not people asking me. I don't know if you experience that. Maybe it's just my face, but people just aren't asking me. I generally ask them more than they ask me.
It's the same way with me. And my follow-up to that is, Do you enjoy a situation like this where for the next 55, 60 minutes, I'm really asking the questions, which I love to do, by the way, and that's why I love this format. And you're just responding to the questions, and we've chit chatted before, so you know maybe where we're going. I don't know, maybe you don't. Does it? I don't want to
Yeah.
say are you uncomfortable, but when someone else is asking the questions like I am, what kind of role do you feel like you're in at that point?
Okay, it's twofold. In this setting, completely comfortable. When it's screen, I could see you and you could see me, and I know what we're doing here. I'm completely fine with it because I know that we're helping people out and we're talking to people. But in a personal setting, I'm not comfortable. I try to turn the tides. I'm like, all right. I'm not here. I'm not interested in talking about myself. I know about myself. I know who I am. Right. I'm interested in learning. I find out so much by asking curious questions and by asking follow-up questions that I'm really not interested in telling my story. I'll tell it here because I know the benefit all around of it, but in real life, no, I you can go years with me connected and I won't really talk that much about myself. I'll generally talk about you unless we're in a conversation that gets deeper beyond.
So this is fascinating. I had not planned on talking about this, but I think there's some value in this because I think there's some people that are wired similar. And I'm not saying that you and I are wired the same, but there's a lot of commonalities. I'm just genuinely curious. I want to know as much as I can. Like one of the drawbacks to that, just like every superpower has a kryptonite, is that I'm addicted to information. And I've realized that I need to cut back on all that I try to consume because I don't need to know all that stuff that as much as that comes up. But I am at times, and maybe this is maturity, concerned that I might be controlling and dominating conversations and situations. I'll give you a quick example. We're parked here in the Black Hills, and we've got a great little sitting area in the back with our fire pit. And the other night, we had some of our neighbors come over and say, "Hey, you mind if we sit with you?" Which that's like dog on a bone for me. I love that stuff. You're usually going
Yeah.
out and about. And she's got a background in medical. He's got a background in the Air Force, retired. It was great. They've been traveling in their RV for a while. All that really cool conversation. But one of the things I am trying to be more aware of is in a situation where there was five of us sitting around here. Our grown son was with us also. I didn't want to be the guy dominating that conversation. It was social mostly, but is that thought ever cross your mind? Like where you're in a situation, maybe it's networking, maybe it's business, maybe it's at a conference. We're going to talk later. And you walk away going, man, I know I ask all the questions and I'm the curious one, but did I dominate that? I'm becoming more aware of that. Does that ever cross your mind?
The dominating part doesn't worry me like it used to because it did. The more self-awareness you get as you get older, the more you realize, oh, shut up. They're looking around. They're looking at their watch. They're looking over their shoulder. Or, oh crap! I'm telling a 14-minute story, and I'm 6 minutes into it, and they don't care at all. Like I've had those moments in the past. My concern now is not the dominating part. It is I am. How would I say it? I'm an extroverted introvert, right? So I don't like networking. I don't like large crowds of small talk. Just don't. I don't like, "Oh, what do you do? What do you do?" Okay, I'll talk to somebody else." I'm like, "No, I would rather pull you aside and let's just have a real conversation, right? Let's talk about real stuff. I don't need the niceties. I don't need." So my problem is this: I can get too deep too quickly with the curiosity, and then even in terms of the conversation, I've had people say, "Oh my goodness, 10 minutes in, and this is like intense," because I'm like, because it's so real, and I have to realize sometimes I'm completely ready for it because I love it. And they've been having maybe a lot of more thin conversations that don't go there and they're not ready for it. That's my awareness now. It's not dominating because generally they do more talking than I do. I ask more questions. But in terms of the questions and the follow up, it can get real. But that's where I've learned everything about everybody. It's so valuable, but I don't think everybody's always ready for it.
Same thing here. I'm looking at my timestamp. We're at the 9 minute mark. We've been talking and we're already going into some like deep personality type things. And this is the same thing I do when I'm talking to people. I mean, it's like, oh, how long can you talk about the weather? Or even I'm starting to get bored talking about sports and politics and all that stuff. And some people dig it. That's fine. but I think you can only talk about a game coming up or a game that happened so much. Just live the game, and we're going to go into. I know your background is sports photography, so I'm gonna dig in that in just a little while.
Yeah.
But I'm the same way. I'm getting extremely bored. I would rather spend some time just by myself with a book or a wife or something like that than idle chit chat. And I think I heard the same thing from you. So similar.
100%. Just that boring kind of, I hate to say it, like the cocktail hour conversation. Just get me out. It's loud, it's noisy, it's impersonal. Maybe everybody's pitching their stuff or they're giving you a business call. Hey, can we just, go over there and have a real conversation? Do we need to do any of this? So yeah, my style of conversation, what I love doing, doesn't lend itself to the small
So
talk.
then here's the I want to throw a little gas on this fire because I think this kind of fits in. Money will often start creeping into conversations that some people have. If I think back into my career when I was hardcore networking, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, I would look at Vincent right now when I'm talking to you, even though we're 11 plus minutes in, and I would have done this at the 30-second mark, and I would have seen dollar signs on your head, even though I would have had some compassion and I would have been curious and all that kind of stuff. I would have been trying to manufacture what's the transaction that you and I may participate in. And it may not be just me transacting, getting money from you. It might be, what can I do to help you do something? Maybe it was not entirely maybe it wasn't, whatever. But tell me a little more about your view of money maybe today. And if you could contrast it, if you had a different view of money in this arena of communication, connection, blah, 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 20 years ago or whatever.
Almost like motive of type of
Maybe,
stuff,
whatever, however you
right?
want to take it. I just want to throw money into the equation here.
Yeah. It's funny because the more you do this, the more you see it, the more you go, like you equate it very simply. I think everybody can relate to this. You go to LinkedIn, you get a friend request, you accept it, and then comes the pitch, right? Boom. And it's typed out and it's got emojis to it. And literally, my personality is like, did you just friend me and pitch me? Did you really just do that? And then there's a quick block almost all the time, but like, view that in the personal space, right? Okay, that's so easy for so many scammers to do online, but there's a lot of people that kind of equate that to, like you said, okay, dollar signs right away. And everybody's trying to build a business, and at least in a lot of our space. So the business side comes into it. It really does come into it because you're looking for the right people, or you're not trying to help the right people. What I viewed it as this, and it's been probably the game changer for me, is any good relationship that I get into a conversation with, transaction wise, I think something great is going to happen between us within the next 3 years. Next 3 years, something great one way or the other, meaning 2 years and 10 months from now, I might make a referral to you and say, you got to work with Tim, right? Or contrast, I might talk to you and you go, I'm looking for a cool event and all these events are awful that I'm going to. And I'd be like, I'll tell you something, we're creating something that's a little bit different and maybe you should go, right? If you have awareness of what's going on, who the person is and how the relationship is and how the trust is being built. I say it all the time, content leads to connection leads to content. And when those merge at the right point, make an offer. But it doesn't mean connect with somebody on LinkedIn and then try to pitch them something, or meet somebody in person and say, you should buy my life insurance. No, you haven't earned trust there yet. I don't believe in you yet. You don't believe in me yet. And it's just so presumptuous. So when you go into it, and the other thing is, when you can add so much value to somebody's life with what you do, meaning I'm in the membership space and I'll talk to somebody, had one yesterday, and we just had a phone call because we met at a conference a year ago. And I asked how it's going, and she's totally stressed out, has a successful business, right? But I know right away from my space, I bet you she's very heavy into client work. Has to be. She's not in my space because she doesn't really have too much time freedom. She's got a good business, but it's tons of client work. And I asked her that, are you heavy? And she said, yeah. We started talking within a half an hour when I explained what we do and how we do it and what my schedule is like and what is it. She had to go, but I want to talk to you more about memberships. Now, what was that? That was a conversation that's me using my expertise to hopefully help her. But if the things align and I can help them with what I have as opposed to me trying to make a sale, I don't ever think of it in sales. I think of it like in terms of offers. Make an offer when you've built trust and they need what you do. I'm not trying to sell anybody. I'm trying to make an offer so there's a collaboration if it's right. So but again, coupled with what I said in the very beginning, never have any rush with any of it. People screw up because they're desperate and they want money
Yeah,
now.
they come across as
If you think of it,
super desperate on those LinkedIn posts. And the thing I love about what you said is that to me, your value is you're helping someone solve a problem, but you don't know that problem until you get to know them. See, so many people are attempting to go straight for the jugular. I've got them in LinkedIn right now. I could guarantee you when you have podcasts and that you're a coach and different things like that, that everybody wants to show me how to become an 8-figure coach when they're probably a 0-figure appointment setter. So I don't even know. I'm same thing, but the thing I wanted to slow down on is that you are taking the time to bring value. My observation, you tell me if this is right or wrong, by solving a problem. If they've got one, they may not have one, but most people have problems, right? So you're just communicating to find out what that might be, correct?
it comes down to curiosity, right? Let's say we meet and I go and we talk about career and you go, things are awesome. Like, and you tell me all this stuff, like traveled my family, business is booming, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. We're helping these people. My mindset goes to, oh, who can I connect to them that needs what they're doing? Because they obviously had us locked in. But if I said, you need my mastermind, what are you talking about? Like, why would I even ask that? They're not asking about it. They're not in need of it. They're not curious about it, but I'm going into it in terms of what I need. It's immediately, hey, how can I help in one way or the other? How can I add value? A friend of mine, I don't know if you know who Laura Portier is. She was a guest on one of our calls in our community. She's a Facebook ads expert and she built this amazing business. And she told me one time, she goes, every time I get on a call, like a discovery call, whatever you want to call it, she goes, I just act like they paid me $500. So what she did was, I'm going to add massive value without leading into the pitch, without, oh, let me give you a step or two, but you need to come pay me for the rest. She just let it all out. By the end of the conversation, they're all like, how do I work with you? Because you're so good. So we enacted that a year ago where I'm just going to add value in one of those calls. And what I learned is by the end of the call, when you've added $500,000, $1,500 value in terms of what they can do, and you blew their mind a little bit and add stuff, they realize when that phone hangs up, I don't have access to this person anymore. And that was really valuable. They wind up asking me, I'm being totally honest, they wind up asking me about what I do way more than I say, this is what I do. Because if you can rock their world for 45 minutes in a space that you're an expert in, and then they say, oh, I need more of this. Is this what you do? Yeah, I didn't talk about it very much, but I proved to you by helping you that I do this. So that's the approach we take. And if they leave there and they go, great, and they don't call me again for a year until they told me they did the work, and fantastic, let's talk again. I'm thrilled. Nothing's about short term. And that's where I think so many people get it. Nothing is about needing anything now or this year. And then it makes 3 years so much better.
And at the end of the day, because you've approached it in what I would call a genuine way, you lay your head on the pillow. You don't feel like you need to go bathe off any of the crappy, manipulative marketing funnel stuff that it's all out there. And it's not really all bad. I think it's just when people attempt to use it in a, we'll just call it non-genuine way. Here's a question that's kind of just jumped in my head, Vincent. So let's go here for just a minute. And the question is this: have you always had this type of energy around, I'm using a big word, connection, because I think connection is like the umbrella that seems to be most of what you're doing now. It all fits in the unconference we're going to talk about in a little while, the membership, total freedom that you did a while back, in your book, The Wealth of Connection. All of that seems to fit under that connection umbrella. But if we were to go back 15, 20, how old are you? How old are you?
I'm 52.
52. You had to think about that for a second, didn't you? We're so you're 52. So
Yeah.
go back 30 years, early 20s, or even your teens. What was Vincent like then? Were you sort of a connector? Can you see glimpses of that personality at that time?
I can't. What was Vincent like? He was a jerk. He was a selfish jerk. That's the best way I can say what I was like from 16 to 22. There's just really no other way to respond. It was completely about me, what I wanted, what I needed, and what I needed to get. There's just no doubt about it. I had humor and I had some wit so I could make people laugh and I could have fun and do dumb things. But yeah, it was all about me. It was nothing about connection in a genuine, helpful form. Not at all.
Huh. But you had
Um,
some gifts and talents that led you into some things, and we could talk maybe now about, I think, photography and things like that. So can you pinpoint something that occurred or a time frame that you began moving away from all about self to then connecting and thinking about others? Because I can in my life, there's a few situations where I say that God got my attention with a 2x4 to the head and said, okay, now I'm going to use these skills that I gave you for good. Is there anything like that that you can pinpoint along the way?
100%. So when I was 22, after screwing around for 6 years, had a really deep, not a very short, but deep conversation with my dad because I wasn't going anywhere in life. It was the first time I paid attention to it. I don't know what I'm doing. It was middle of the night, just stressed out. And he said to me, he goes, "You love sports, you like traveling, you like taking pictures. Why don't you become a sports photographer?" And he went upstairs with a glass of water, 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, what is that even a job? Like nobody in school told me that would be my dream job. Why didn't anybody tell me this? And so then the next day I look at the newspaper and I see a picture on the back page. I'm like, had I not noticed? There's a name underneath that. Somebody took that picture and they got paid for that. Whoa. And I went out and bought a camera and a lens that day. And my uncle, who's an amateur photographer, is like, "You idiot, why didn't you talk to me? There's autofocus now." I bought a manual focus camera in 1994. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to get started. And I would sneak and I would buy the cheapest tickets to games. I was in New York, Yankee games and Mets games at Yankee Stadium, Shea Stadium. And I learned how to sneak down to the front row by watching the security guards. I'd watch security guards and they would walk down to the dugout in between innings and I would follow behind them and I would sit down in an empty seat. And they'd walk past me when the innings start. And then as soon as they got past, I would walk down to the front row. So every game, I was in the first or second row with my camera. And then I figured out how to sit next to the professional photographers. So I would every night ask them questions. What kind of film you use? What kind of camera? Who do you work for? How much you get paid? But that was my first real school that I paid attention to and wound up getting an internship with the National Hockey League, a subsidiary of the NHL, and then being published in magazines and hockey cards and getting an internship at News, building on to where I eventually won International Sports Photographer of the Year for a newspaper that I worked for. And that built out this business that started after that when our first son was born. But to answer your question, I did that for 20 something years. I did everything you can imagine. Super Bowls, World Series, traveled everywhere to do it. But at some point along, and I think it was the first NHL finals that I covered before I actually photographed them actually winning something, I was there and I was almost emotionally empty. This was my dream assignment. This was my dream assignment, the thing I'd been wanting forever. I'm credentialed. I got on ice credentials in case they win. Everything you can imagine. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. And here's why. I finally said to myself, I was doing this all either for me or for the attention I was getting from it. Because I finally did something that people thought was cool, right? I would show up at a party and I was the guy that was with Tom Brady the day before, right? I'm next to LeBron James on the sidelines, right? Listening to him call the winning play of a game and taking notes on it. That became my identity. And without it, who was I? So I had friends that would talk to me all sports. And then when there was nothing sports to talk about, it was empty. And I felt empty. And I'm like a circus clown. I'm here for the show to either impress people or for them to impress their friends. That's what would happen. But what was I contributing? And that's when I finally realized it was all about my own selfish goals. I wasn't helping anybody with the work I was doing, at least from my perspective. I was helping me. And that was the holy crap, I hit the pinnacle of what I wanted to do and I'm completely empty. Now, you'll hear billionaires talk about that in terms of money. I didn't get to billionaire status, But I got to career status where I was like, more of this is not helping me.
Hmm.
It's not what I want to do. So eventually within a year, I declared I'm not doing this anymore. And what happened was, this was the change. I was shooting a wedding because weddings made good money. Sports didn't always make good money, but weddings did. And I was photographing a wedding with one of the best DJs in town. But he was great at art and he was terrible at business. That's almost every artist. Every creative artist is great at art, terrible at business. You'll talk to podcasters who will obsess over everything. They don't know how to do business, right? So while we ate dinner, I coached him for an hour on his business. I'm like, I've been watching you. What about this? Why don't you try this? Don't do all this stuff. By the end of it, he's like, you just changed my business. And I was like, cool. And then he went up to turn the music on for the reception. And I remember thinking, I don't want to go out there. I want to talk to him some more. And then that same night, some drunk guy in the dance floor was like, hey, cameraman, take my picture. I'm like, I went home and I told my wife who was in bed, I said, I'm done. I'm done with this. And she said, what do you mean? I don't want to do this anymore. And it was making really good money. It was a strong 6 figures that didn't require that much time. And I was like, I'm done. And not that I'm going to quit tomorrow. We have 3 kids. But I said, she said, what do you want to do? And I said to her, I said, that conversation I had with that DJ, if I could find a way to do that for a living in some form, would be the greatest thing ever. Because I felt so good that I helped him with an expertise that I had. So there were a lot of moments within those 20 years in between where it started getting in there. But that was the moment where it was like, it's not about me. And I'll tell you, I'm so thrilled for, like, literally whole different life from that moment on.
So Vincent, one thing that is interesting, we have this subtitle, The Leadership Journey, just because journey to me is what fascinates me. I love to learn from people's journeys. And one of the things I think that's also fascinating is how many people out there would have reached that place that you did and would have convinced themselves that they need to keep doing it. Either they had so much invested in it, or either social capital or real capital or whatever, and they would have just kept going along. And so there's a couple of things that I heard. I'm going to mention them and then you could respond to whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Number one, you recognized it. You had a situation where something sparked in you and all of a sudden you're coaching someone when your eyes were off yourself. That's exactly the way I perceive it. Your eyes were on yourself before you talked to that DJ. When you talked to that DJ, bam. But there was probably stuff building up along the way there. And then the second thing, and I'm going to bring this up here because I think it's important, and you talked to your wife about it. And she didn't, I think her name's Elizabeth. I see her name on all your stuff. And so I think y'all are a team. She didn't say, listen, big guy, you bring the money in here. Don't you think about doing anything different and changing our lifestyle? There's a whole factor of who your partner is and stuff like that. Anything I just brought up there, whatever you want to respond to, just to talk about that transition before we can move along to the next phase of your story, because I think spouses are important.
Oh, you just highlight how lucky I got by the person I married. From the funny side of it, she knows that if it was just about money, I'd be miserable and she wouldn't want to live with me. If I have to, it's like me in school. If I have to continue doing something I don't want to do, I don't care how much money it is. I can't pretend. I can't go into the office every day with the briefcase until I retire. Like, and anything but. And she married me knowing that. So it wasn't I wasn't stunned by her response, because she knows that the more excited I am with the work that I'm doing, the better I am at home. And the more money we will eventually make. But we're also both very about couples and relationships. You know, listen to Dave Ramsey and say there's one person's a spender, one person's a saver in almost every relationship. We're both on the saver side. Neither one of us need very much. We have much more than we need as it is. And it's something where it's like money never really drove us. And we've never made decisions based on money. So even when I quit my job to become a full-time entrepreneur, it was like, okay, it's going to be a rough year, but we'll make it happen and we can do with a lot less. And how much do we really need? And what do we really eat? And what do the kids need? They're happy with dirt. Come on, let's not make our life dependent on the need for money. But I will see a lot of people that will tell me, I cannot start that thing because I need to replace my income. And then I say, how much is your income? Like, about 160 grand. And my wife makes 50 doing this. I'm like, so you can't do what you want to do because you have to replace that. How about you save a little bit of money for a couple months and do what you love doing? But you know how many people, Tim, give me that answer? I got to replace my income. I want to be in a situation where money makes no difference in terms of the work that I do. And the less that I need, the easier that is. That's a really hard thing to convince to America. It just really is for this country to see that you don't need that much. But, get into finances, when the average car payment's $700, when everybody's in gymnastics and all these different taekwondo, and they're paying for all this stuff. And there's all this different stuff involved. When we need 3 vacations a year, enjoy the job that you're going to have for the next 20 years because you trapped yourself into it and you won't do anything to change it. We both would be fine with so much less, which allows me to fire a client that's a pain in the butt. And we fired high-priced clients because they just weren't fun to work with. Can't do that if you always need as much money as possible and you're in debt and your budget's that high. So that's why. And she's wonderful. She's the best thing that ever happened to me.
I think the cool thing about that, and what I hear you say too, is whatever people are making, they need to be spending less than that. There was a time in my life where we weren't, and I know you recognize this, but you're talking to a guy that he and his wife live in an RV motor coach that's 15 years old. We travel around, and when I tell people what our quote unquote overhead is, when I tell them that my biggest bill is my cell phone bill, they go, "So you're talking about flexibility," and we haven't always had that. And I think we talk about things like total freedom and all that's part of the equation. It is. I don't care what people do to bring in revenue. And this is the way I thought, like 90s into the 2000s. I'm just going to out earn it. I'm just going to out earn. I'm just going to make more. I had a membership during the 2000s in the real estate investing space. In 08, had no margin, and bam, that was ugly. So I think that's a great transition. I'd love to ask more about the sports photography and all that, but truthfully, I want to talk about the more fun stuff because I know that you did so many cool things and all that. We'll let somebody check all that out and all in some other way. You transitioned, and I know it probably wasn't you snapped the finger and you did, but you made the decision. Give me some of the time frames from there to when you looked around and went, okay, I am an entrepreneur in a different space. Photography's behind me, and I'm moving in a new direction. Give me rough time frames when that was, that kind of stuff.
What years?
Like years and how long? Some people think you wake up one morning, Friday you shut it down, and then Monday you're like in something new. I'm guessing there was transition.
No.
And if you want to give the years, that's cool too.
Yeah. So around 2013 is when it really started to hit me. Here's where it happened. I'll tell you the origin of it. I was slated to photograph a Pittsburgh Pirates playoff game. And if anybody's familiar with the Pittsburgh Pirates, playoff games with the Pirates are very rare. So they're very special, especially a home game. Very rare. It wasn't we went to the first game that they had in 20 years. This was the next year. So they were having another wild card game, second playoff game in Pittsburgh in 21 years. I'm credentialed to shoot that game, which is going to be a madhouse and so much fun in your dream assignment. At the same time, my wife and I were hired by Dave Ramsey to photograph one of his events in Pittsburgh a week before that. So they found us and they hired us, and we were doing, I don't know what big event they were doing. So backstage, we're photographing Dave and his daughter Rachel and a bunch of people, and Chris Medford was their director of live events at that point. Chris introduced himself to us, and we're talking about the event. And he goes, yeah, we're stressed out. We're planning a big event in New York next week, and it's just taking up all our time. And I said, and the event it's called Business Gets Personal, which is a great title, right, to start this with. And it was Dave, Seth Godin, and Gary Vaynerchuk all co-headlining it. It was only the three of them, and it was at the Rose Theater in New York City. And I'd wanted to go, and the tickets were not cheap. It was like $1,000 a ticket. But the problem was that event was the day after the Pirates playoff game. So there's no way I can shoot a game, transmit 1 o'clock in the morning and get to New York in 8 hours without any sleep. And I actually planned it. I thought, can I get there with no sleep and have a lot? I tried to figure it all out. You know what? I can't do that. It's not going to work. I literally looked at it. How do I take? So it didn't happen. So I see Chris and he says, we're doing this event. And I said to him, yeah, I'd love to go. I'd want to go. But then he cut me off. He didn't hear the second part. I said, but I can't because I have an assignment. And he looked at me and he said, do you want to go? And I'm like, is that a sign? Because he asked me, even though I said that, I said, yeah, I want to go. And he looks at me and he goes, I'll have my assistant get you tickets. I was like, Okay. So we went and shot the thing, and this was my crossroads. What do I do? I've got the credential for this career that I've been doing for 20 years that I've loved, but I know I'm starting to fade. And I've got this event I go to where I can meet these people. It's a VIP pass. So I'm going to be having dinner with Gary and Seth and Dave. And it's in the space that I want to go into, which I'm not. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not in that space. I'm in the service-based entrepreneur photographer thing. This is a space I want to go into, content creation. What do I do? I got a decision to make here. And I talked to Elizabeth, and what do I do? And she said to me, you got to go to New York. You got to go. And I get emotional thinking about it because it would be very easy to be like, you go to New York, you know what that means? You're checking out of a career. Like I knew if I didn't take that credential to that game, I'm on my way out. I know myself. And I'm like, if I don't go to that game, I can't keep putting my effort in. So I went to New York and I met Gary and I met Dave and I met Seth and I met a good friend named Ken Carfagno, who we started masterminding the next week on our business is what we're building. We did that every week and he took notes and he is still a part of our group today, one of my closest friends. And I met him at that event. That was the moment. And it took 3 years of writing and creating content and doing a blog that nobody read and then meeting people and making connections and connecting with podcasters and then going to podcast movement and not even having anything, but starting to get interviewed on podcasts when I'm writing a book. And that's where it all took shape. So when we started coaching and then getting into the membership space in 2017, there was 4 years of foundational work and connection that happened before we even started doing anything with it. Because I didn't have the confidence. What am I going to do? And so that was, and then, but once 2016, 2017 happened, it just started shooting upward.
So the cool thing about this word journey is that there really are, if someone considers it a journey, and you've already said you're not thinking short term, it's not like you're in 2013 saying, okay, I'm going to this event. I need to sell something the following week to really prove that this is worthwhile. People think that way. We know they do. They show up at conferences. They buy a pitch or a package or something like that, thinking they're going to make money the next week. We dealt with this in our organization that we had with real estate investors. They thought it was a quick thing and all that kind of stuff. So here's what I listed out when I was just checking out Vincent here in the last couple of days. And it started progressing. It went, I had like growing up, which we talked about that, photography. And then I wrote total freedom, membership freedom, unconference. And then I kind of did this thing that connection was something that kind of fit all that together. Did I miss anything along the way? Are those kind of some of the big brands and all that? Because there's been some shifts. That total freedom was bigger. And now you've niched it down more to memberships within that. And I listened to a podcast where you had just spent like 2 months in your pool thinking about that transition. So what else about transition, pivot? Because some people will think, this is a theme here a little bit, that if they're doing something, they need to just keep doing it the rest of their lives. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about listening to yourself. If you're a faith person, listening to that divine voice, listen to your inner voice, whatever it is. So give me a couple of those transitions and what someone listening can learn from, I don't even like the word pivot. Truthfully, pivot, I think, has been a little bit overused, but if you want to use it, you're welcome to use pivot.
Problem is, it's the right word. It just is the right, to me, it's a constant pivot with consistent growth. We're always paying attention to what the next step is, right? So it's almost like you're starting fresh the next day with a little bit of an advantage over the day before. And I just want to keep playing the game. So the game does not have to be total life freedom. It did not have to be my book. We do this for a while. We learn how to run memberships. We had a membership on photography for a while. And then I realized what's working, what's not working. I'm always saying what's working and what's not working. And they go, okay, we could add this. It gives you flexibility. It gives you the opportunity to add something that wasn't there before, as opposed to this is the way we always do it. There is no, this is the way we always do it in our world. There is, we're starting over tomorrow a little bit better than yesterday. And we look around and we go, there's that. So that's what happened with us. We had the Total Life Freedom membership for 5 years. And I'll reiterate the story. I was feeling, what are we doing here? It's going well, very profitable. Literally, for the membership required a couple of hours a week for me. It would be the dream scenario for a lot of people, just like I guess the sports photography career would have been for other people. But I'm like, it's not right. Something's not right. And it's not that I'm always negative. I'm not. I'm just assessing where where is that spot? And it's always there. So I sat in the pool for a couple weeks, like a hobo, right? Just sitting on a float thinking, I'm like, something's not right here. And then it finally hit me. I said, memberships. We have a call every month within our membership helping people build memberships. About a third of our membership was building them already with our guidance. Why don't we niche down? Because memberships gave us the freedom. We were able to move from Pennsylvania to Florida on a dime during COVID because we have recurring online revenue and we don't have to be any one place, and it's all the income's all there. So getting everything was easy when everybody else was struggling. If we can create a sister adjacent membership for memberships where that's what we talk about specifically, and everybody there is on the same path, and we have a roadmap for them, it was so much more clear than what we were doing before, which was cool and a great group. But at times, kind of like, what are we doing here? That was my question. So I did a lot of market research. This is what I teach, and most people don't do. Get on the phone and talk to people, and don't sell them. Ask them real questions. Give me feedback. Shoot holes in this. Tell me what the price points sound. You're not looking to make money off of it. You're looking for information. And the overwhelming response was, this is amazing. 60 people from those phone calls joined the founding membership without me offering it. It was wild. And then we went and grew from there. And who knows? I can't tell you I'll be doing it in 4 years, because in 3 years, I might start being like, where are we going here? How do we make this a little bit better? And I think that freedom of being able to pivot and planning in advance, step by step, instead of making a big shift. Like, I equate it to going to the eye doctor. And people laugh when I say this. When you go to the eye doctor and you get in between that machine and they're going up and down there, and you're looking at a chart, and they go, which one's clearer, the left or the right? Oh, the right one's a little bit sharper. Okay, what about this one? The left's a little sharper. That's how I go about business on a consistent basis. What's just a little bit sharper that takes us there? It's no big shift. We're not pulling our eyes out and put a new eye in. We're just making it a little bit clearer every day. That's where we got where we are. And it just gets better without any major shift. That's what I did from 2013, 2016. It was a lot of, what am I talking about? What have I done? How can I help people? It was not a rush. And I think a lot of people do want that quick fix. And I am not in the quick fix world. So I'll tell people. I had a conversation last night with a guy about memberships. He goes, but I don't think I could do this quickly. I'm like, you're not going to do it quickly. And if you want to, I'm not the person to talk to. I'm going to say 3 years to launch, 3 years to freedom. If you can't accept that, you're not going to like work with.
Yeah, that doesn't fit well with a lot of our quick fix, get rich quick type culture society, which has always been around. It's just it's hyper now just because of
Work.
social and things like that. First of all, I do want to say, laying in your pool and hobo like a hobo didn't fit together. That's not that didn't register in my mind. You're laying in your
saw
pool.
me at night. You saw me.
Did you look like a hobo?
I hadn't showered. My wife would agree with me on that one. Like, yeah, you did look like a hobo.
Somebody told me that, oh, you live in an RV. Are you like a hobo? I went, hobo is not the word I'd use in a 40-foot motor coach, maybe more like a pirate or a nomad
There you
or
go.
something like that. But so one thing you mentioned, though, you said that both situations that you pivoted or transitioned, you said you were making good money. So the indicator is not money, but you said something wasn't quite right when you were going from that total to membership, when you were going from photography to also the general thing you were doing. What are some other indicators? And I want to know, is it almost always Vincent's got this feeling? Because that's the two things that I heard. Or are there some other gauges that you can learn from and pick up on, that we all can learn from, that you go, you know what, this isn't quite right. It might be heading in a direction that's losing momentum or whatever. What are some other prescriptions or some indicators that we can learn from when you've made this specifically transition from total to membership?
That's a great question, because I'm not sure if I ever thought about it in terms of what were the things. Like, a lot of it's gut. And I think gut maybe is undervaluing it, because I think about this a lot, right? I have freedom. Like, literally, you look at my schedule, you go, okay, he built it. Doesn't mean my mind's not always going about it. So I have much more, like I say, I spend half my time dreaming. half my time dreaming and thinking. When you have time to do that, you're going to notice things like, what don't I like doing? So I think that's where it comes down to me. When I coach other people, I'm like, we make these subtle, almost surgical changes of what don't you want to be doing in this? And they'll say, there's one aspect of it that I hate is, but okay, let's work to eliminate that. When you can cut that little bit of cancer out, all of a sudden the entire thing doesn't need to be destroyed. You've gotten rid of, okay, now let's replace that with something good. It's a joke that I said to my wife this morning. I said, I don't know how he did it, but there's a line from a Styx song, if you're old enough to remember the band Styx. And the line was, I got nothing to do and all day to do it. And it's one of my favorite lines because I'm like, we built that. And so meaning, if you can build freedom in your life, you eliminate all the things you don't want to do, piece by piece, surgically, and then replace them with the things you do want to do. And I'll give you the perfect example. I started doing coaching. That's how this business started, one-to-one coaching. But that got stressful for me because I'm waiting on everybody. It got emotional at times, filled up my schedule. I had to work more to make more money all the time. And then we went towards the membership stage. So I almost completely eliminated coaching until recently, except for little ones here and there within my membership, till I started doing voice coaching, meaning I sit by the pool, right, or at the beach, and I'll send voice memos and check in on people, and then realizing this can be the coaching that I want to do. So we started doing, meaning you send me a question, I give you an answer. We don't need to schedule a Zoom call. Surgically, what's your problem? Let's do it. Let's fix it. Come back next week and let's do it again. So now we're rebuilding the coaching side because we cleared our schedule. There's not that much. Now I want to do more of that stuff. I didn't want to do it in the beginning. I found a better way of doing it, and now that's increasing in our business. So when you can eliminate the things piece by piece you don't want and figure out what it is that lights you up, because I love helping people, but I don't necessarily want to be on 4 Zoom coaching calls a day, right? Or phone calls like that. Now all of a sudden I'm feeling stressed. Oh, if I can do it this way, you send me a message in the morning and I answer you while I'm on a walk in the evening. How do you build a life like that? Nobody told me that was possible in the past. That's how we little by little take away anything we don't want. And I can honestly say there's nothing I do in my work that I don't like, because either we get rid of it. I have a great wife that knows tech way better than I do, so she takes care of all that crap that I hate, or we hire somebody else. But it's just her and I. We're the entire organization. There's not a giant staff around. You don't need to have a huge team to do this. And I think that's another thing that most people don't realize.
Yeah, I'm in an age where very similar. I've learned the things that I am not going to do or don't want to do. You and I are doing something that I rarely do today. This is a Friday when we're recording, and I rarely do anything on Fridays. I've kind of where I rarely do anything on Mondays too, by the way. But I'm trying to catch up. I've got 3 weeks and I'm going to be off in another week. And plus you and I are just kind of going back and forth on schedules. So I think part of it is recognizing what you're doing. And the cool thing too now is with technology, AI, all of that. But you brought something up before I get too far down, and I'm watching my time too. You said that you take time to think and you're not totally packing things in your schedule. Now, having said that, at one point you were doing daily podcasts. And I also know that now you do a daily post on, I think Facebook is where you do that. And so I'm going to clear this question together and say, okay, I totally agree that quiet, still thinking time is the most powerful thing that a leader in any role can do. Corporations or ministries, or especially entrepreneurs, they are packing things in. But what is Vincent's time? I know you push that daily podcast out, and I know that probably daily Facebook, you're probably in a rhythm that doesn't take that long for you. I'm not making light of it at all. But anyway, talk about schedule and how important quiet time is to do what you're doing.
It's just what we talked about before. I created a lot of time to where the mastermind needs 2 hours of my time. The membership needs an hour of my time outside of content I create on my own schedule. And I was feeling unscheduled completely, which isn't a good thing. I pretty much have free reign. I write when I want to write, or talk when I want. What the daily post did to me was give me some structure that I needed. I don't need that much, but I need a little bit. So what happened was I started waking up, and I don't know if you're like me or anybody listening is like me. My best ideas come as soon as I wake up. It's something that's ruminating. But in the past, I would write it down to create later. What I did was this: wake up, here's the thought. I'm sitting down for about 15 minutes to a half an hour and I'm writing about it. And then I'm publishing it at 9 o'clock. That's what I'm doing. That was that's what I needed to do. I need to get up and create, because if I batch all that, because everybody tell me, oh, just batch it all. If I batch it all for 30 days and schedule it all out, I'm still in the same spot of I got no structure, right? So that gave me the structure of get up, create, get it out of your head. You might not publish it that day, but it gave me the bookend that I needed to start the day in a creative mode that gets something out there and then pushes forward. It's just a little thing. But it's important because that's where I get a lot of response from. From that, if you think about connection, all the people that comment or like, it's very easy to be like, hey, Tim, how's things going? You want to chat? Let's just have a conversation. And then co-brainstorm. You tell me about what you're doing. I tell you about what I'm doing. You go, oh, my friend needs that. Content leads to connection. Connection leads to content. And both those together lead to offers. Business is not that complicated, and we make it seem so much more.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Trying to think how to frame this question. You have unique access to some really bright people that are in your groups and memberships, because these are people that are wanting to build and create something. And you've narrowed it even down to people that want to do memberships. So you're probably now seeing a wide range of businesses and mindsets and things like that are wanting to be involved with memberships. There are people, I remember sitting in Dan Kennedy's basement back in 2003, and he was saying, you need to have people pay you for a membership, and then you could stretch the membership, all that kind of stuff. So I've been exposed to it. But Vincent, there are a lot of people that don't quite get membership, but they're bright and they probably should be leaning that way. So here's what I'd love for you to do in the next couple of minutes, and then we'll talk about the unconference and probably wrap up. Talk to the person that doesn't quite get memberships, but they're intrigued and piqued, and maybe pull in some of all of this vast wisdom that you're getting from just hanging around with some super bright people that you're accumulating together. Does that make sense? Take that and run with it.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, okay, selfish goals and generous goals, right? Selfish goals for me, what I call recurring remote revenue. It is the most underrated part of business to me. When you wake up and you look at your phone and there's 8 payments that came in before you get out of bed, while you're thinking of your Facebook post, it changes the way you do business. I don't need to go searching for clients. I don't need to bug people for a sale. I don't need to do any of it. It is all I need to do to simplify it is over deliver for those people, meaning I have a weekly call that I prepare heavily for, and I want to crush it for them. And if they leave that call or watch that replay and go, this is super valuable, I'm sticking around. That's all you need to build it up to that. That gives you financial freedom, whatever your number is. Let's say it's $10,000 a month. You get to 100 people at $100 a month, whatever, $10,000 a month. Now you just need to maintain that for the rest of your life, and you essentially have financial freedom. One person leaves, you replace them. But you 2 people leave in a month, you have the whole month to replace 2 people. It's way different than starting from zero and having to get all new clients over and over again. And that's what people say to me. I'm just tired of chasing clients. I don't have to chase clients. I get members, and then I try to over deliver for them. That gives me freedom to where my schedule frees up. When your schedule frees up, you can exercise. You can spend time with your family. You can think of new business ideas. You can create different levels to it. We came to this conclusion at one point. We have the membership, $97 a month, base level. We had people that maybe couldn't afford it or couldn't get on the calls. We created a membership with all the content. Why don't we open that up for $57 a month for people that want the library? And people are like, that's exactly what I need. Now we create another level to it. So we have from low ticket to very high ticket, everything in between around this one thing, and it still all takes me the same amount of time. That $57 level requires no time because the membership site's already been built. We just put every call and every course into it when it's done. We were doing that for the community anyway. It's almost like a donut hole. We got this donut, we stamp a hole in the middle of it. What do we do with this extra dough? Throw it out? No, let's roll it up in a ball, glaze it, and sell it, and make more money from the donut hole than we did from the donut. We used to throw it out in the past. There's excess that you can create for a different client base, and that increases your income. And you can do that without expanding your time too much. Now you can create more content, make more connections, build the next thing. The unconference came from the, what do I do next? I'm a little bored. I want to create the thing that I didn't have, that I couldn't find. Let's go make it. I don't have the financial stress that I can turn down the people that I don't want. I could be a little bolder in terms of who it's for and who it's not for, as opposed to buy my ticket. It's actually an invite/application only thing, because there's people that I don't want going that shouldn't be there. Can't do that if I need the money and I'm stressed out. That's what memberships gives you. It gives you that predictable income, that recurring revenue, to take the stress off, free up your time, and allow you to build the next things you want to build as well.
Is there one of the things, I'm kind of business junkie. I love seeing different businesses and all that. Is there a business or two that when they decided they wanted to have a membership, I don't want to say that you scratched your head and say, I don't know, let's see how that works out. Is there one that you would go like, someone wouldn't think that could be a membership, but yet they've created and built a membership around that? Anything pop in your head when I say that?
If I told you and your audience that somebody can make a couple $100,000 a year with a murder mystery quilting membership, would you believe
Wait,
me?
hold on. Wait. Murder mystery quilting?
There's a woman, Deborah Mobes, and she's in Georgia, and she was a guest in our group in January. And I heard about this from my friend Ben Kaloy, and I'm like, no. So I looked her up. I'm like, this is real? So I talked to her, had a great conversation. She was in that space. I think she had a store where they sold yarn. I can't remember what it was. And she started realizing there's a whole bunch of people that like murder mystery in this space. She goes, it probably won't work, but let's put something together for them. Maybe we make a quilt together for a year online, and we build it, and every month we give you a clue about this murder mystery story. We put those together. She has, last I heard from her, 3,100 paying members paying $100 a year. So yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah.
You know what I love about that? We're talking about niche here, is that I automatically know that group is not my group.
Yes.
I'm not a murder mystery. I'm not a quilter, none of that. But it's so crystal clear, because part of life sometimes is knowing where you don't need to go hang out, right?
Totally. But here's the other part of it. Here's the other part to think about. It is so not for you, but I guarantee you, if you meet somebody that it's for, you will tell them and she will get another sale.
I actually know someone that's a podcaster that has a quilting podcast, and I don't know if she's into the murder mysteries. I'm going, we might need to connect them. You know what I mean? I kind of like popped in my head.
We can do it together, or message me and I'll do it, because she'd be a great guest for that. But that's the whole thing. The more you niche down, when we went from total life freedom, which is a great phrase, but very vague in terms of business, to membership freedom, I get a message almost every day saying, you need to meet my friend Judy. She needs a membership. You're the guy.
Yeah.
That didn't happen before. So we're so afraid of niching down, but niching down makes the murder mystery quilting thing happen, as opposed to her saying, I have a hobby membership and we do model airplanes and we do tanks and we do a little quilt. Like, okay, but murder mystery quilting, either in or out. Somebody that needs it.
Yeah. All right, real quick, we've only got a couple minutes here. I, at one point, was a conference junkie. I loved going to them. We ran them with all of our businesses and all heading into 2008. I spoke at quite a few. And truthfully, the formula for conferences, it's good for people that are extroverts and love to get out, but they kind of suck in that you're going to get pitched most often. You're going to be around a boatload of people that you may or may not want to hang out with. And so sometime during your hobo time in the pool, you came up with this that you're calling an unconference. Give me a quick 30 to 60 second. You're not really a pitch, but tell me why maybe I should consider it. Maybe let's do it that way. Because I'm a guy that doesn't like conferences,
Okay.
but I love being around people. So what's up?
I love conferences, but I hate them. I love that they bring together all these amazing people, and then we have to sit like we're in school listening to speaker after speaker when I could just listen to their podcast. And then in the hallway, I have to brush by somebody to have a conversation, or go to a club at 11:30 at night with DJs blasting to talk to them. Who created this? I hate the format to it, but my closest friends I met there. So I said, why don't we do the opposite? we all hang out in the hallways. Anybody experienced pays the money and hangs out in the hallways and talks. Why don't we create an event that's the hallways? And then I said, we have these intimate mastermind retreats that are so powerful. What if we blended them together? What if we created something that was the hallways of a conference colliding with an intimate mastermind retreat? We'll limit it to 100 people, so it's not too small, not too big. It'll be invite application only, and there will be no speakers, there will be no stages, there will be no pitches, there will be no upsells, there'll be no vendors. Everything that I don't care about in these events, I eliminate and just bring it down to the things that everybody says they go there for, but they still have to sit through all this other crap. So that was the idea. And I started doing conversations and everybody said, I love the idea. And we booked the place we booked the Embassy Suites in Sarasota, Florida, February 3rd through the 5th. And we're halfway sold out without promoting it and just talking, having conversations about it. This is a thing that will grow in years to come, but it will not grow in size. We will probably keep it at this size every single time. We will just add events as they're needed. How was that? How was that?
That was good. I think some of our audience may be a great fit. So why don't we do this, Vincent? We're right up against our time here. Tell people how they could connect with you. This is time to give websites, socials, anything, or, if it's the Unconference. I know you've got books and all the Wealth of Connection. I've read portions of that. Just right now, tell them all that. And then I've got another question too before we wrap.
Real quick, our website's mymembershipfreedom.com. That's the website where it's all, and on there's an application for the Unconference. If somebody's interested, we also give away the audio for my book, The Wealth of Connection. So you can get the audio for free, the full book. It's not a chapter, it's the full book. Facebook and LinkedIn are the two. There we go. Facebook and LinkedIn are the two platforms I'm on the most. And if you look at that again, show that again, I'm the only one. I'm very unique in my book. If you look at the bottom of it, I'm the only non-best-selling author, I think, in the world. Everybody else is a best-selling author.
Congratulations. You're the only guy.
It was very easy to achieve. I'll tell you that one. That one was easy. I got so tired of that. Unconference is the same thing. I get tired of all this stuff. Everybody's a best-selling author. I'm a non-best-selling author. And people love that. So yeah, that's where you can find me, My Membership Freedom, or on social, or just send me an email. I'll give you the email. Totally happy to connect.
Sounds good. We'll include all those links. Vincent, we're Seek, Go, Create. Those 3 words. I'm going to allow you, force you, whatever, to pick one of those and why that just means more to you. Seek, Go, Create. Which one do you choose and why? Last question.
I love them all. Go means taking action. Seek means you're looking for knowledge or connection. But I'm going to go with create, because I think when you create around what you're meant to be doing, that you love doing, you will gain attention and trust. You will then gain connection from the people who love what you do. And that to me, that's where it all starts. So I'm going to go with create.
Awesome. Vincent, I knew I'd love this conversation. I knew I'd love the control of being able to ask you stuff so that I could dig in a little bit more. And hopefully, I don't think it was that uncomfortable for you, because I know we are sharing a message and we're looking for people that are thinking non-traditional, thinking differently. And I think this has been a great message for you. If you've been listening in, thanks for listening in. We've got new episodes on both YouTube and on all the podcast channels every Monday. So we appreciate you being here. Until next time, continue being all that you were created to be.